we've been your job search besties and helped you in some way, there's a cool way you can support the show. Shout us a virtual coffee.
We get a huge kick out of reading all of your success stories. Head to buymeacoffee.com/interviewboss and shout us a cuppa.
If you keep us caffeinated, we can keep the content coming.
So many people say, I'm not good at talking about myself in interviews. Well, if that's you,
this is your
then
chance.
You should be excited about your project. Yeah.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Interview Boss. My name is Emma. I'm a radio journalist who's teamed up with my sister to give you advice, inspiration and support when you're looking for a new job. Sarah is a HR and recruitment professional, and together we're excited to give you all the tips, tricks and behind the scenes knowledge to help you in your career.
Hey Em, and welcome back everyone. It's time for the Shoot Your Shot Shoutout. This is where we celebrate you guys, our incredible listeners. You've gone out there, you've done the interviews, you've applied for the jobs, you've shot your shot, and you've got an update for us. This week we are shouting out Lauren, who bought us 10 coffees. That is incredible. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Yes, she said, hey, Interview Boss Queens, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude for your content. I was a regular listener of your podcast for about 12 months while I searched for a job. I'm a project manager working in commercial media. I networked, polished my resume, interviewed over and over again. I got close thrice, second interview, final stage, only to be rejected due to more specialised applicants.
How good is the word thrice?
I was just thinking that. It feels like it's not real, but it is.
It's such a good word.
Does it keep going? Like, is there fourth, rice, etc.?
No, that's why I think it's special. I mean, I could be wrong about that. Someone send us a message to let me know. But I feel like it's a one-off for thrice, which is why it's such a cool word. I endeavour to use it more in my day-to-day life.
Yes. Your acknowledgement of how hard the mental struggle is to persist was really validating. I'm so pleased to say I've just signed a contract on a new job which comes with a $17,000 pay rise with commission and higher earning potential in the future. It's a strategy and sales role, the perfect fit for me. Your interview tips, best bits, packaging and frank advice on starting with the resume, as well as how to network, all got this over the line for me. I previously worked at the same company as the head of sales and reached out to them who invited me to apply. You guys are the best. If I can leave my own tip, I always read The First 90 Days by Michael D. Watkins when I start a new job, all about what to do in the first 90 days to set yourself up for success. I'm so glad I can finally dust this off the shelf again. Thanks, Emma and Sarah.
Oh, I love that so much. And can we just encourage more of our listeners in their shout outs to give their own little tidbits and tips? That's incredible.
Yes.
And I've heard of that book. I haven't read it, but I've meant to so many times. I've heard other people recommend it. So go out there, read it for us and let us know what you thought of The First 90 Days if you're listening to this and you've already got your new job locked in.
Yes, that is so good. And I feel like people are craving this content. They're like, okay, I've got the job. What next? And thank you to everyone who on our recent ep has flooded us with feedback saying you are team Make a Career podcast to hold our hand through the next steps. We hear you.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen one day.
Yes, but just it's a timing thing. Watch this space. Watch this space. Now, if you want results like Lauren, but maybe you needed a little bit more guidance than she did, you can check out all of our extra help. You can check out my one-on-one interview coaching sessions if you've kind of got the basics down, but you need a bit of personalized guidance for your situation. Maybe you're not sure how certain things apply to you. Or if you need a comprehensive guide to keep you on track, make sure you don't focus on the wrong things, and to give you the how do I actually come up with these stories? How do I know that it's a good one? All those kind of questions that you have in more depth, check out the Interview Academy. We're starting to get some incredible testimonials for the Academy. You can check out all about it at interviewboss.com.au/coaching, and the link will be below as it always is.
And if you want to request an episode specifically on your conundrum or industry, you can kindly follow us on Instagram, slide into our DMs, and we could dedicate a whole episode to you, which is what we're doing today. And actually, we had 3 messages or more about this same topic, which is so helpful because it tells us where to direct our attention and content.
And they were actually emails. So you can actually do that if you prefer. If you don't want to do the DM thing, you can jump on our website and use our contact us form. And that's how these people slid in with their topic suggestions.
But please do it on Instagram because we need the followers. So do it on there.
I know. You can follow us over there and then go email, like whatever you prefer. Yeah.
Yes. So we're talking about doing case studies, interview projects, presentations. So once you're in the interview process, they hit you with doing a bloody task.
Yep. It's some kind of a task. And they call them different things, right? Like we're going to hear in these 3 submissions, like it's always something a little bit different. But there's no reason to be doing an episode on a case study, an episode on a project. They're just words, right? We're talking about you need to prepare something.
So I'll read you out the 3 messages that we got and then we will jump in. So Carly said, do you have any episodes out covering putting together case studies and or presenting them? Like how much time to spend on them when you're still applying and interviewing for other roles, how detailed to get, etc. Then we had Lydia say, part of the interview process will be a writing task and then we'll have to present on that task. Do you have any recommendations on what podcast to listen to support this process as I'm so overwhelmed? Then Nikki chimed in and said, this will be the 3rd in-person interview and it's to present and walk through the case study that I've done. The interview process is so time consuming with a baby at home. I had to pay a babysitter and my husband also had to take time off to watch the baby so I can study. I'm so nervous that I'll stumble in the next interview and do badly walking them through the Excel work and memo I prepared. I did use a lot of help from AI, but I did do all the work. I worry that I'll mess up and all this work will be for nothing.
Right. And so 3 very different kind of projects that you can see. There's like a writing task, we've got a case study and then you're presenting that. And we've got another one where there's an Excel task involved and a presentation. So there's a whole bunch of different stuff going on. So I thought we could go through what kind of projects or case studies might you get? Because what I really don't want is for someone to go, oh yeah, but Sarah, this episode doesn't apply to me because mine's different to this. So I want to cover all of the types of things that you might get asked to do, because the thing is that it's going to be so dependent on the job that you're going for. And when I've assigned these to people, when I've been managing recruitment processes, they're not the same from job to job. They're completely custom based on what we're hiring for. So the likelihood that you're going to get something that the next person has dealt with before or that I've dealt with before specifically is very low. There's going to be a lot of personalization that's going to be involved. But let's go through some categories. I think there are 3 kind of main categories. There's like a take-home assignment, number 1.
Like the homework version of an interview. So you might be asked to come up with a marketing campaign or a bit of a social media strategy, or even put together a mini project or plan, report, proposal, something like that.
Do something with some data, maybe some data analysis, do something in Excel, look at a graph or look at, some information. So that's the kind of take-home assignment. Now, some of these can kind of be combined, but that gives you a bit of an idea of what that might entail. Then there's a case study. And I think that these 2 can kind of blend into one, but a case study is like, here's a bit of a problem, here's the scenario, what would you do? And you actually have some time again at home to prep in advance. Occasionally they might give you this like in the actual interview, but if that's the case, then this episode is not going to be able to help you because you're in the interview. You're not going to be able to listen to our advice in the moment. And there's not a whole lot of prep that you can do because you don't know the question.
I've done a task in an interview before and there's truly no way to prepare. You've just got to deal with it on the spot.
Well, and it's a bit like Well, they're just going to see how you do this task as if you were on day one of your job. Like, you're not going to be like, hey, can I take this home tonight and come back tomorrow? Like, no, you're at work now. Like, you need to do it now. So in a case study, you might have to solve some kind of a business problem, like present this go-to-market strategy. If you were launching this product, how would you do it? You might need to analyze some data, make recommendations. It could even be something like, what would you do with this student? Or what would you do with this team or this project or this scenario? How would you approach it? If these were the results that you were getting, what might you recommend or something like that? There's a whole bunch of different things. It could even be if you're a teacher or something. It could even be if you had to teach this topic, how would you go about it? Like, there are endless ways that you can kind of pitch a case study. And then the last one is presentations. This is kind of fairly self-explanatory, but you have to actually present some stuff back to the panel or back to the interviewer. This could be combined with a case study where you have to prep some stuff and then you have to present it. Or maybe there's some work you have to do, like a written piece of work that's like a take-home assignment, and then you have to present it as well. So this can often go kind of hand in hand with the others. But you could be asked to do something like to present your vision for the role or what you do in your first 90 days. Pro tip, go and steal the ideas from that book that Lauren mentioned.
Would you ever be asked to do a presentation on the spot, or is it normally you get to go prepare and then come back?
I think it would be quite out of pocket for you to not know up front that they were going to ask you to do something. Like, typically when there's a presentation or a task or something, you know that there is a presentation or a task. You just don't know what it is. Does that kind of make sense? Like, when you're going to have to respond on the spot, normally you know something's coming. That would be really strange for them to spring that on you. But if they're springing it on you, then they obviously want to see how you respond under pressure. Like, they're kind of more looking for your instant reaction, in which case it doesn't need to be as prepped.
So, yeah, you also might be asked to run through a training session or explain a concept, particularly if you're in the teaching industry or in a leadership role.
Yeah, we do actually have a whole episode on presentations. So we will link that below, or you can go and search that to find that episode. So I guess for this episode, we're not focusing as much on the presentation part. Go and listen to that one if you need to. We're kind of covering the project component a little bit more.
Yes. So why do companies use these projects? They can be such a source of stress.
Totally. And I always like to do this part of our episodes, and you probably get really sick of it. I'm like, oh, why do we do this? It's but this is the behind the scenes that we talk about in our little intro. This is the behind the scenes that you get to understand the other side of it. And I really think for me, this would really help me. If I didn't have any knowledge of recruiting or HR, this would be the light bulb moment to go, oh, I get it now, because that's why they're doing it. So I want you to think about the whole hiring process. We're trying to say who is going to do this job the best, right? Who's going to do this job the best for us, for this time, for everything that we're looking for. And what we've kind of come up with is having your experience written on a bit of paper and then a conversation in person to see if you can do the job. Now, for a lot of like really casual entry-level jobs, they get you to come in and do a work trial. That's the best way to see if someone's going to be able to do the job, right? Come in and do a shift. Let's see how you go. Obviously, that's not appropriate for a corporate environment or for a more professional or more senior environment. They can't just be like, oh, come in and run a leadership meeting and we'll see if you're any good. Like, that just that's not a thing that you can do. But we do kind of want to get closer to the actual job than just talking about it, because I'm sure you can imagine that if you asked 10 people who applied for a job, can you do this? What do you think they're all going to say?
Of course, I'm great at it.
Exactly. And so we have different interview questions and all these different things to try and separate that. But I promise you there are people who say they can do something who then can't. And that's not a good win for that person or for the business. So we're trying to actually get closer to the job. That's why these kinds of things exist. And like, just to take kind of presenting as an example or putting together a slide deck, everyone's going to say, oh yeah, I do slide decks all the time. I'm great at it. But have you ever seen the difference in quality that people create when they do a slide deck?
What the hell is a slide deck? Do you mean like a PowerPoint presentation slides?
Yes. A PowerPoint presentation. That's so funny.
I don't watch any slide decks in my job. So no, I have not noticed the poor difference.
What about uni projects or whatever? Have you just seen before like how people put them together or been to like a conference or a meeting or anything like that? Surely you've seen some bad slide decks or some bad PowerPoints.
Yeah. I guess the bad ones are like when you go onto PowerPoint and you go into the design and you pick one that's just got like a brown stripe or like...
Yes. Well, they use word art. How long's it been since you saw word art?
But I feel like word art's having a comeback unironically. Like people are like, you know how brands are using paint as like their marketing? Like our marketing person quit, help us.
Yeah, word art on their slides. I love that. And also, it's so funny to me that you had to ask about slide deck. That's so good. I really hope that someone listening to that was thinking the same thing because you're right. It didn't really occur to me. Yeah, that's what it means. It's corporate lingo.
What was wrong with the humble PowerPoint slides? Why did we have to rebrand it? Slide deck makes it sound like the cha-cha, like a dance. Like everyone, do the slide deck. Right foot, let's go.
I don't know. Ask the consulting bros or something. I'm not sure. I also do think though that it's not always PowerPoint anymore. Like I like Canva. There's also like whatever the Apple one is. I'm a Mac girl and I don't even know what the Apple one is. I think
Google.
Nobody uses
What's Google?
it. Yeah, Google Slides.
Okay, so maybe it's a Google thing. Slide deck.
Yeah, anyway, that's what they are called. But just, using that is like, oh, put a deck together. Anyway, to give a bit of an example on that, I've worked with a lot of different people. And sure, the really, crazy example of people not being able to put a PowerPoint presentation together is, the terrible formatting or they're using Comic Sans. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just your everyday...
Justice for Comic Sans.
I'm just talking about your everyday colleagues who would say, yeah, absolutely, I've done heaps of that. I've had to put together reports, blah, blah, blah. I think the real key for me, and it's just a really small test of how good someone is at knowing how things look and putting something nice looking together with a slide deck, is putting a slide together with 4 people's photos on it. Let's say you've got like, they're 4 people's different jobs or something like that, or like introducing the team, something, and you want to put them in 4 little squares that are the same size squares because that would make sense, right? Like it's symmetrical. You've got a square with Sarah's head and they're next to each other. But the photos that you get from LinkedIn or wherever you're getting the photo, they're not always the same size to begin with. Sometimes they're landscape, sometimes they're portrait, sometimes it's really zoomed in, et cetera, et cetera. People who don't really know how to put things together, don't have a whole lot of experience, will just make it smaller, not using the corners. So they'll shrink it top to bottom so that my face gets...
Who does that?
Lots of people, Emma, lots of people. Lots and lots and lots of people. I promise you this happens all the time. All the time.
Everybody knows you're not allowed to touch the sides.
But they want
corners only.
I know, but they want to make it the same.
It warps the photo.
They want to make your box the same size as my box. And they haven't learnt about the square crop or any of the other ways that you could achieve that, honestly. And they just make your head slightly shorter.
You can do the corners and then crop the sides if you need.
I know. There are like 15 ways that you could achieve that would be way more appropriate than making someone's photo skinnier or longer. But I see it constantly. And I just want to put that out there as that's the kind of thing that you wouldn't know that someone does unless you saw them actually create a slide deck, right?
And make Darren from accounts have a big long horse face.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's actually what they're going to be testing for. That was just an example just to say the difference between someone saying, yes, I'm good at this, and actually seeing them do the task. And I'm hoping that paints a bit of a picture in your mind of why a company might be using a project to see how you actually go about something as opposed to just taking your word for it.
And you get to show your actual skills in person: communication, problem solving, creativity, initiative. They're getting a real life demonstration of your skills.
So many people say, I'm not good at talking about myself in interviews. Well, if that's you,
this is your
then
chance.
You should be excited about your project. Yeah, because you don't have to talk about yourself. You just get to do the thing. You just get to do the job like you would in being given a task in the real world.
I think that's a good mindset shift to remember if you're nervous, because this is a chance to actually just prove it without getting really in your head. And I think a lot of the time when people message us, they're always like, help, I have to do something. I've got no idea what it's going to be on. And I'm always a bit like, well, what you do, if you're a journalist going for a job, you're not going to go in there and be given an algebra question. Like, clearly you're going to be asked to write a story, to, put together a media release, to cut up audio. So I totally get it. I would be the same. But there's always a spiral, and it's like, hang on, well, it's going to have to do with something that you do all the time.
That's right.
It's going to be, you are 100% guaranteed it's going to be linked to what you would be doing in this job.
That's right.
Look at the job criteria. Look at the key skills. That's what it'll be about.
That's exactly right. And I love that you said, I get it, because I completely agree. I think the same things when I see people writing that in. I'm like, well, if they're asking you to do this, then probably that might be what the job includes. And if you really have no idea how to answer that question, then maybe that's a bit of a concern if you are right for the job, actually.
But naturally, if it was me, it's the unknown.
Yes. And it just feels weird. It's like, but it's an interview. How do I do this for an interview? And I know how to do that if my boss assigned me that, but that's different. It's pressure and all these different things. And we'll get to some of that a little bit later. But I want you to have that mindset shift that this is a good thing. It allows you to show them what you can do instead of having to talk about it.
And they get to see how you respond to a brief and how you prepare under pressure, how you can structure your thinking. And in a lot of ways, sometimes it's just about how you handle it, not necessarily what you've prepared.
Yeah. Because they know that you're not going to ever have the context that you need to give the actual answer as if it was your actual job. Like if they say you're going for a consulting job, what would you recommend for this company who you're consulting to, and they have XYZ, whatever? Well, you would have way more information if you were going to actually present back to that company. Like that is completely unrealistic. But it's, sure, we're just pretending here. Here's a little bit of info. We just want to see how you would start to tackle that task, because they don't want to give you the actual work because that would be inappropriate. It's like a week-long thing that you would spend on that in the real world. So we're just kind of getting at like an almost real scenario. It's not a real. For some jobs like marketing, design, maybe teaching, like these kinds of things where this is exactly what you're going to be doing with your time, maybe even sales, like a lot of the time, your job is going to be putting together various different pitches, campaigns, slide decks, teaching, training, whatever. Like that is actually the job that you will be doing almost every day. And so it's a really great way for companies to kind of test that in those particular areas. Hey, Interview Boss listeners, if the podcast just isn't doing it for you and you need way more help to prep for your next interview, we have the perfect thing for you. Interview Academy. Em, tell us all about it.
This is huge. This is the love child of Sarah after doing hundreds of one-on-one coaching sessions, finding out what people struggle with the most, common mistakes. Sarah has created the ultimate course that you can do in your own time, self-paced, heaps of modules, videos, interactive quizzes, a workbook that will become your Bible by the end that you can take with you into your interview, because if you're a long-time listener, you know that we endorse taking notes into your interview. It's a game changer.
Check out more about it at interviewboss.com.au/interview academy.
Yes. Also, it can help the hiring manager get a vibe of what you'd be like to work with. They're getting to see your personality a bit more in terms of your working style.
Yeah.
They can imagine if you'd be a good fit.
Yep. How creative are you? How logical are you? How well do you kind of keep to time and talk through stuff? How many bullet points do you put up? There's so many little bits and pieces that they're going to be picking up. So that's a bit of the context. I'm hoping it makes a little bit more sense now why we're actually doing these kinds of projects. I think it's way more valuable than just doing more interviews, to be honest.
Now, some common concerns that we hear, we're going to explain those. I'll read them out and then Sarah will debunk the concerns. So the first one we always get is, but how much time do I spend on it? Which is valid because you're still actively applying. You don't want to spend hours and hours on something that, might not go anywhere. It's kind of like a fear of either underdoing it, not preparing enough, or overdoing it and you've spent way too much time that it wasn't worth it.
Yep, absolutely. So I think a good rule of thumb is obviously get the info from the team who's given it to you. How long should this take? If they haven't already said that, then you should ask them for sure. But outside of that, just to give a bit of an idea of like how much effort, it should be like a high stakes meeting at work. So it's not something that you're rolling into having looked at it 30 minutes before, but it's also not life or death. It's not like your whole career comes down to this point, like you're weeks and weeks agonizing over this slide, each slide and each point and rehearsing over and over and over. Like you really wouldn't memorize a presentation for just a regular high stakes meeting, would you? So I think that can be a good rule of thumb. It's not life or death, but it's worth some prep. And again, ask for that rough time expectation.
Another big one we hear is, but what if I get it wrong? People really just worry about not knowing exactly what they're expecting. So feel like, what if I'm just totally missing the mark?
Yeah. Like we said before, you don't have all the info. This is only just a really kind of high level task that you're being asked to do. You don't know the product. You don't know the company. You don't know the students. You don't know whatever the thing is that you're trying to do. You don't know the context of where the data came from or what else might be relevant to look at. So you're not going to be able to do it exactly the way that you would on the job. Let that go. That is completely okay. They're not trying to get you to do a full 100% job on something. And there's typically not really like a right or perfect answer either. It's often about how you're thinking through it, how you're backing things up. And so if you do go in a bit of an unexpected way, let's say you answered this part more than this part and they weren't really expecting that, they might still be thoroughly impressed with that. Like it's not like, you got it wrong, you mucked it up, on to the next thing. Like it's so much more qualitative than it is quantitative.
Another big one we get is I didn't get feedback after all of that effort, like a real frustration that they were ghosted or it was just totally unappreciated, all that effort that they went to.
Yep. Maybe you've done one in the past and you didn't get the role and you didn't hear back and the role got pulled or something like that. And you think, that's such a, I'm never going to do one of those again. Or I want to make sure that I'm the last candidate before I do something like that. Completely understand the frustration. And if I was really excited about a job that I was going for and I was asked to do some kind of a project, I have actually been asked to do projects before, I would be really tempted to go above and beyond because this is kind of who I am. And particularly if I was really, really excited about it and they said, it's meant to take 3 hours, I can see myself spending a lot longer putting that together. And I think that's okay if you are really excited about it and you want to put all that effort in. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying I think it's okay if you feel the need to and you're that kind of person. But I want you to ask yourself, would I be okay spending this much time on this task if it turns out that I don't get the job? Or am I going to feel resentful that I lost my Sunday if I don't get this job? I think that really helps you tell, right? If you'd be resentful from spending any time on it whatsoever, well, then there's some different things going on there that we need to talk about. But if you go, I'd be resentful for losing my whole day, but I wouldn't mind if it took me a couple of hours and then I didn't get the job. I would think that was enough to make sure that I wasn't underprepared, right? Like check in with yourself. If you think that you might feel really, really frustrated if you don't hear back, ask yourself that question before you actually commit that much time.
Another thing we often hear people say is, but are they using my work for free? Are they getting me to just, are they taking advantage of my skills, my expertise?
Yep. Are they going to take what I've done for them and use it and not hire anyone? And, that's what they're going to do. I think this is potentially more of a concern in like the social media and kind of marketing space. I see a lot more of people doing that.
Or the graphic design.
Yes. It tends to be in areas where you are working on something that's real, first of all, and then also like what you're submitting is finished work, actually. I think that's a genuine kind of concern. And if that is the case, if you are working on something real and you're submitting actual finished work, then sure, definitely you should be asking the question, are they going to use my work for free? And send us a message about that and we'll maybe do a separate episode on if you think that's actually the case. But for the most part, for people doing a project or a case study, They're getting you to spend 2 hours on something that you're presenting that you don't actually have all the information for. They're getting you to do a writing task. It might be similar to something that they're actually working on, but the likelihood that they're going to just take your random thoughts and turn that into real work, and there's some mastermind there going, oh, we need this writing task done, or we need this data analyzed. I know, let's come up with a fake interview process and collect all these resumes and spend hours speaking to people over the phone and do the first round of interviews and then get people, and then our master plan will be that someone's done the work for free. I've never seen or heard anywhere where that's actually the case. And I don't even think it makes sense for most of the types of work that we're talking about here. I saw some stuff in some forums. I was looking on Reddit about people who are talking about this kind of case study and projects that they need to do. And there was this one really long post from someone who said that they put watermarks on all their slides. They sent a sharing link that was time delayed and that they wouldn't have access to after a certain amount of time. And then they also discussed the fact that they'd only gotten rights to use the template for personal use, and they talked about in the meeting that there were copyright repercussions and there could be issues if they took their work. I felt like that was a lot. That was a lot on some slides. And maybe what they were working on was a finished product and they were right to be really worried about that. But I just think that they're not stealing your work. And I think this quote from someone else on Reddit, I think really nailed it. And it kind of captured what I was trying to say in a much better way. So I'll just read it. They were talking about someone who was asked to do a project that was a go-to-market strategy. So that is the kind of thing that if you did it in complete full, they could go, cool, thanks. This is a real product. We're going to take this go-to-market strategy. And for your benefit and anyone else who's not in marketing, it's kind of like, who are your customers? Who are your competitors? What's your marketing message? How are you going to actually start selling this product? Like, what's your plan, I guess? And what they said is everything is based on the level of depth you go into. You could answer these same questions in months, or you could do it in a matter of hours, but the output is going to be really, really different. Since this is in a matter of hours, you're being tested on how quickly you can pick up a new topic and get your thinking behind it and put something together. Now, I've paraphrased a little bit there, but I think that really captures what we're talking about here. Yes, if you did a full, actual go-to-market strategy, all the project, all the research, and spent ages on it, that would genuinely be what you'd be doing in the job in the first 2 months or something like that. That would be inappropriate for you to deliver in an interview context. Asking you to do that same level of stuff in 2 hours, they're not going to be expecting the same level of detail, right? It's, hey, how are you thinking about this? And yes, I think some people go, oh, but because it's a real product and it's one of their new products, they're going to be using it. Often it's just kind of convenient because they've just spent the time doing this or they're working on it at the moment.
They don't have to come up with a fake example for you.
Exactly, because it's actually really hard to come up with a fake example. It really is, because then who's the client? Who are the customers? Like, you've got to come up with all this other fake stuff. Being able to say, yep, just use our most recent product that we've come out with, because you can find information about it. It might prep you a little bit for actually starting in the role as well. You've already started to get a little bit familiar with what they do. And also they know what they're kind of looking at. They're kind of familiar with what they did and they can compare and contrast all these different reasons why they might genuinely be using their own stuff. And so I think this fear of they're stealing my work, I don't think that that's your main concern. I don't think that should be your main concern, unless there are other red flags outside of just the fact that you've been asked to do a project.
So another one that we get is it's not really clear what they're assessing. People feel confused about what they should focus on.
Yeah. Totally. So this is such a big one that we're going to do a whole kind of section on what should you actually focus on. Like, where should you be spending your time? What are we trying to do? And this is really hard because it's like, this could be a writing task. This could be data analysis. Like, it's hard. But first tip is have a think about what they might be looking for. So what are the skills that are important in this role? Like, for example, I saw someone say that they had to do a task where they were going for a website coordination job and they were asked to do all this stuff that on first glance could have been seen as more senior. They were asked to say, what features would you improve on our product? And it's like, that wasn't going to be their job. So therefore, they're not really looking for you to come up with these amazing solutions to their new features. It's more about how would you then project manage going through them, because that is the real bit of the job that you'll be doing. Does that kind of make sense? Like going back to what's the job can really help you understand this is the part of the project that they're going to be really interested in. Like, for example, is it going to be a job about coming up with new ideas or not really? Is it more about how you communicate ideas once somebody else gives them to you? Are they looking at how you prioritize, how you work out what to focus on? Is it how you present actually is the whole thing and the content really doesn't matter that much based on what the job is actually going to be?
When I went for a communications officer role once for a company, the task that they had me do was access some dot points and information from someone in the company, put together a statement to go out to, the public. And also I had to refer to an internal procedures document to make sure what I was writing complied with policy. And that made perfect sense because the job literally is to put information out there that is accurate but complies with their procedures. So a lot of the time, the tasks are pretty straightforward and linked to what you'll be doing.
Yeah. And some of them aren't going to be as clear as that. Sometimes they've just been a bit poorly constructed by the people who've put them together and they haven't given you enough kind of guidance on what you should focus on. But you should be able to work out, how does this link to the job? That should give you some clues on where you should be focusing on. Like, let's say for that example, you were given just, hey, put this press release together, and you weren't given any other information. If you knew that that was a very policy and procedure driven kind of workplace, you might have said, okay, well, they will be really interested in that. I don't have any policies and procedures, but maybe I can refer to those to say, I didn't know whether to do this or this. I chose this, but I would obviously refer to the processes. You can still infer some of these things, even if it's a badly constructed task.
And if you need it, ask for basic clarity. So you can say, roughly how long would you expect someone to spend on this? This feels illegal to me to ask, but it's great because if they designed it, they have in mind the level of depth and time that it should take someone. So yeah, hear it straight from them.
You can also ask, who is the audience that I'm meant to be delivering this to? Am I thinking about this as you as the panel, or am I imagining this is the board, or this is, customers or something like that? Is there anything in particular you'd like me to cover? You can ask clarifying questions, keeping in mind that the point of this activity is to kind of see how you approach it. You can't be asking a whole page of questions about, do you want this? Do you want that? How many slides? You're going to have to make some decisions here, but you can ask some clarifying questions.
And decide what you want to show them. I love this. We're flipping it. So if you're still unsure, ask yourself, well, what do I want them to know about me? What do I want to get across in this?
This is like the interview boss power move version for case studies. This is the move. This is the thing that might make people go, oh, okay, I know what I need to do.
Yeah. Pick 2 or 3 of your strengths that you really want to highlight. So maybe it's your strategic thinking, your initiative, clear communication, and then build your project around those strengths and show them in action.
Maybe you really care about the way that you do your slide decks and coming up with a cohesive brand and making everything really simple and easy to understand is something that you really love. Great. Well, then do that. Maybe it's the cool ideas for you that it's not so much about the slides and how you present them, but it's you want to put the time into coming up with some really creative ideas to present. Maybe it's that you want your presentation. You want to have bullet points. You want to keep to time, the structure that you want to come at it with. Maybe you want to focus a lot on your Q&A. Maybe you want to have a shorter presentation and go, I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions because that's something that you want to highlight is your ability to kind of respond back and forth with people. I think this can be a really big unlock, is thinking in this job, what are my best bits? What are the stuff that I want to show them? And you get to show it instead of having to talk about it.
Yes, and we have some rapid fire bonus tips as well to round out this episode that can be really helpful. So if you're asked to present, for the love of God, please bring notes and have a tech backup plan. So if you have your presentation on Canva, but Canva crashes and the browser at their workplace, Canva's blocked or something. Like, have it on a USB, have it saved in your Google Drive.
Oh my gosh. I'm having flashbacks to you and I doing the school presentations and the internet wasn't working. And then we were hotspotting and then I couldn't hotspot. And so I got it on my phone. I had to leave the room and like emailed it to myself as a PDF so that then you could like have some backup plans, because in that moment you're like, oh my gosh, the students are going to be here in a second. Like, what am I going to do? Are we going to have to do this with no slides? All the notes were kind of in the slides. We didn't have anything printed off. Just have a backup plan. Email yourself a PDF, email it to them, bring your phone so you can hotspot, bring a cord so that you can connect it, bring your own laptop in your bag so that you can just pull that out and go, oh, don't worry about the screen. I'll just pull it up here on my laptop. Just have a few ideas about what you might do.
Do as we say, not as we do.
Yes, yes. And I think, sure, you should expect that they have the tech kind of covered, but you don't want to be the one scrambling. You want to come prepared. Imagine if you brought a clicker. How boss would that be to turn up with a clicker?
Or a big long pointing stick.
Or a laser pointer.
Shine it in their eyes if they don't like your presentation.
If you actually have a clicker and you're the kind of person that uses a clicker, you should bring it. I'm all for that. Just be like, oh, I brought my own clicker. I love that. I would be really impressed by that.
You would, because you're a gadget girl.
I am. I'd be like, show me your clicker.
Show me your clicker.
Does it have a laser pointer?
All right. Enough of a nerdy freak out. So trust that your effort counts. Most hiring managers are just looking for your approach, your attitude, your initiative, that you're having a crack, not perfection. I'll give it the other anecdote. I remember a new sales guy was starting at our work. He was really young and he'd never done it before. And my office was next to the office where he got pulled in. And the sales manager did the classic, all right, sell me this pen. And I felt so bad for him because he just was spiraling and he was freaking out. And I so desperately wanted to yell out, like, just start talking. Like, just, it doesn't actually matter what you're saying.
Say something. Have a go.
It's just
pick something weird and go for it. Yeah.
Of you going, well, did you know this was actually created in 1973 by an Australian man named Dave? Like, you could say that. And it's so untrue.
You could say this particular pen was owned by some famous person. Like, just honestly, it's about, am I going to, in the face of something that I don't know how to do, am I going to give up and crumble, or am I going to try something? Am I going to come up with an answer? Am I going to have a go? Like, a lot of the time it's about those kinds of things. And I even think this applies to stuff where there is kind of a little bit more a right or wrong answer. There's a data analysis task that I've actually given out a couple of times before for like a junior HR role. And it was really relevant. They were fake employees. I had a lot of fun coming up with the fake names, but it was use these two data sets to fill out this information, basically. And the idea was that it was meant to be something challenging. We actually didn't expect the person to be able to complete the task properly, but we wanted them to have a go. And how did they go about it? And sometimes they did actually complete it in a way that was beyond our expectations, which is awesome. Then we want to know, cool, did you already know how to do that? Or did you have to learn that for this task? Like, that's something I'm interested in. And when they got it wrong, we were able to look at how did they get it wrong? Because sometimes the way they got it wrong was like, cool, you had everything off by one column, but I can see what you were trying to do. I can see your formulas. You were on the right track. Like, that was some good thinking. You've had a go.
It's like when in year 12, your HSC exam, if you got the answer wrong, but you had the right working out, you got points. You got just as many points. It didn't matter what the end result was as long as you showed how you got there.
That's right. You got the wrong answer because you made a wrong assumption at the beginning or you wrote something down wrong, but your working was correct. And so you get a point for the working. I think that's really the case with a lot of these things is you can show, hey, I made this assumption. And they're like, oh, that's the wrong assumption. You're like, cool, but here's what I did with it. Like, great, your reasoning is really, really relevant.
And unless you think that the whole point is the slide design, if you're a graphic designer, okay, this might apply to you, but don't waste time on designing your slides perfectly. It's Productive procrastination. It's like when you really need to write an essay, so you clean your car. You're like, oh, I just can't do anything until I feel better. It's productive, but it's not what you should be spending your time on. So spend more time on the content. The slides are just there to be pretty and to support what you're saying.
Yep. Use a Canva template, use a PowerPoint template, just use something basic. Do not spend a whole bunch of time. And if you have to do it this way, do all the content with the boring slides, just everything black and white, everything Arial, nothing even bolded, and then go back and add the design once you've finished doing the work. I think that would be a good way to go about it.
Lastly, trust us when we say it's not about being perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect answer. They're looking at your judgment, your reasoning, explanations, the way you back things up, not about perfection.
Yep, absolutely. I know these are hard. I know they are so anxiety inducing, and it's terrifying to think that you put in all this work and it won't get you somewhere. But you've got this. You can do this. If you're being invited to do one of these things, chances are you're in the later stages of the interview process. That's awesome. You should be proud of yourself for getting to this point. You get an opportunity to showcase your skills. Trust yourself that you know what to do.
Yes, you don't have to do backflips trying to remember your best examples and showcase your best bits. You can just show them and go, there, bet you want to hire me now.
Exactly. Thanks so much for listening to Interview Boss. If you like hearing the sound of our voices, follow us on Apple or Spotify, or better yet, tell someone else about the show. That's how we can hit the charts and help even more people all around the world. For more advice, inspiration, maybe some behind the scenes, and a supportive community, chuck us a follow on Instagram @InterviewBoss. Can you believe we started Interview Boss in 2021?
Not really. It's insane. That's a lot of episodes and a lot of hours of talking.
Oh my gosh, it is. And if you're scrolling through all of our episodes, you might scroll straight past something that you really, really needed.
Yes, we're always getting messages from people asking us to do an episode on something, and I'm like, we already have.
So we've put together playlists to help you find the episodes that are exactly what you need, suited to your situation.
They're all categorized. If you're applying for jobs, we have episodes about resumes, cover letters, job ads. If you've been offered your dream job, we have episodes on resigning, exit interviews, and how to impress at your new company.
And we even have a very special playlist that's very popular for if you have an interview coming up immediately and you need just our most recommended hard-hitting episodes between now and then.
For all our last-minute listeners. It's all there for you. You can browse by category and check out all the playlists at interviewboss.com.au/podcast.